see if this works. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Rowan Daneels. I'm a professor and researcher at the University of Antwerp here. And today I want to quickly take you through my main area of research, which is eudaimonic player experiences. So just as a small disclaimer, I'm gonna have a good tempo, so bear with me. So what is eudaimonia besides a hard to pronounce word? The Greek philosopher Aristotle used the term to describe how a person's happiness can be reached by focusing on activities that allow us to become the best version of ourselves, to realize our full potential. So in other words, focusing on everything that allows us to grow as a person and as a human being. I see people wondering, what does an ancient Greek philosophical concept like eudaimonia have to do with a modern day entertainment medium like digital games? So combining both topics, eudaimonic player experiences are more profound experiences that foster players' personal growth and overall positive outcomes, looking beyond the traditional focus on fun or enjoyment. So early research on eudaimonic gaming suggested that these experiences offer something more than fun, but it was unclear what more. So we identified key experiences defined as eudaimonic, like personal meaning, where in-game content resonates with our personal life, but also emotional impact, reflection, and more. Perhaps it's best to clarify with an example. In God of War, the Spartan warrior Kratos struggles with his new role as a father. So what's eudaimonic here is how their father-son relationship evolves from a distant to a loving one, potentially resonating with players' real-life experiences, especially for fathers such as myself, creating a sense of meaningfulness and prompting reflection on their own parenting behavior. And the final piece of the puzzle to fully understand eudaimonic PX is that such experiences are subjective, meaning that what is eudaimonic for some players may not be the same for others. So based on my 8 years of research with more than 3,000 players across several studies, I want to show during this talk how players' personal, social, and game-related factors shape eudaimonic PX. So the first personal characteristic that comes to mind is players' age. While most research focuses on adults, my own research explores adolescents' eudaimonic PX, an understudied audience that are also still developing themselves in a cognitive, emotional, and social sense, making eudaimonic experiences especially relevant for this age group. So through interviews and focus groups, adolescent players describe their eudaimonic PX mostly in terms of reflective, intensely emotional, and socially connecting moments while playing, so in sync with their developmental needs. Adolescents experience eudaimonia when games clearly connect to their real lives. That's something I just discussed as meaningfulness. So this shows that not only adults but also adolescents can have these experiences. We can move quickly over the gender factor. Across several surveys with over 1,000 players, we found that there were a few significant differences between male, female, and other gender identities in terms of players' emotional, reflective, socially bonding, and so on experiences. So cautious conclusion here is that much like age, gender is not an important factor here. And a final personal factor is personality traits. Our recent survey shows that players' big 5 traits of extroversion, social conscientiousness, and neuroticism led to stronger social connectedness and nostalgia, but not to more emotional reflection. Since this comes from a single study, more research is needed to see if personality is indeed an important factor. Then regarding the social context of eudaimonic PX, our preliminary surveys suggest that, unsurprisingly, multiplayer games like Mario Kart were more important for socially bonding experiences, while single players like Tears of the Kingdom showed more meaningful, emotional, and reflective PX. So, however, features such as cooperative versus competitive play, how they impact these things remains food for study. Then the game literacy, these are game-related factors. And the first factor here is game literacy defined as self-reported skills, and we found that these players with more literacy generally have more eudaimonic PX. And so this suggests that skilled players can devote more attention to emotional storylines than navigating the game. And then, traditionally, academia has focused on motives related to fun, escapism, or amusement. So through a series of surveys on players' expectations and motives, we asked ourselves whether players also choose games for eudaimonic reasons. And so we have 2 categories of eudaimonic motives: self-realization, or playing for personal growth, but also meaningful affect, or playing for feeling heart-warmed, feeling moved. And these motives also predicted eudaimonic PX, but they were generally less common than fun. Only in specific game types, such as cozy games, did we find eudaimonic reasons as important factors. Then perceived game realism is another game-related factor, and this factor not only concerns the audiovisual quality of a game, but it also includes the similarity between in-game characters or events and real-life people and occurrences, or social realism, but also how much you are able to conduct real-life actions and behavior in a game environment, or simulational realism. So we examined this factor in two studies, a survey on historical games, including several Assassin's Creed games, and a player experiment where people played one of two games in the Life is Strange series. And across both studies, we found that especially simulational realism, so getting to behave realistically, increased players' meaningful, emotionally moving, and reflective ones. So I can already hear some of you think, hold on, you just said that eudaimonic gaming is subjective, that it's more focused on the player, less about the game. Well, I lied to some extent. There are some elements that make games prone to deliver eudaimonic PX. So we deeply analyzed 3 games like Detroit Become Human to untangle these elements. And so 2 major elements directly impact eudaimonic PX, engagement with narrative themes like death, illness, or family, and choices that clearly shape the narrative. And other elements indirectly impact eudaimonia by supporting the narrative and choices like motion capture facial graphics, fitting soundtrack, and game-specific mechanics. So there are 3 main takeaways from this talk. 1, there is no such thing as a eudaimonic game, as eudaimonia is a subjective experience. So this talk showed that people of all ages and gender identities can have eudaimonic PX, that certain personality traits lead to social connectedness and nostalgia, and that game-related factors of game literacy, eudaimonic motives, and perceived simulational realism drive eudaimonic PX. 2, these experiences are becoming more and more common. Developers increasingly offer thought-provoking stories, emotionally intense characters in both AAA titles and also indie games, showing a maturing medium that democratizes eudaimonic PX. So in turn, this attracts a more diverse gaming audience, expanding the market and helping players feel more included as gamers. And 3, eudaimonia does not exclude fun. Games can and should intertwine both, as they reinforce each other, creating a bigger impact than focusing on eudaimonia alone. In the end, eudaimonic PX shows that games are not mindless entertainment, providing personal meaning, intense emotions, reflection, and more, in turn leading players to become better, more complete human beings. Thank you.